Welcome everyone to the 154th Celebrity Synastry chart reading, where we will be looking into Kali Uchis and Don Toliver. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Adeline and it is so nice to meet you. On this channel, I look at the dynamic between two celebrities using astrology. For those new and returning, I take notes on a synastry chart looking at the personal planets, signs, aspects, and if birth times are available, house overlays included as well. I share these notes and add my extra insights and interpretations along the way. So if that sounds good to you, subscribe and click the bell to join us weekly, and let's get right into this one. Starting off with the sun, we have Kali's sun in Cancer and Don's sun in Gemini. Kali takes care of family affairs. I'm not sure if they have any sort of like children together or anything like that, but that is that. This could even just genuinely be like domestic sort of stuff as well. Don can be indifferent to Kali's needs, and Kali finds Don's mind appealing. Don finds Kali's sensitive nature curious, and misunderstandings occur due to emotions. Don's sun overlaid in Kali's 8th house. There is a strong bond and emotional dependence, which I'm curious to see where this will go because, you know, the emotional dependence we're just seeing now, but also if what we just saw with misunderstandings occur due to emotions, I'm curious to see where their emotional relationship will go here. Don is captivated by Kali. I assume this would be potentially due to her more like sensitive nature. Don may feel he cannot leave, and Kali has the ability to transform Don. They both feel initially afraid of this relationship, and they both weirdly enjoy the darkness and depth of the relationship. Kali may have come into Don's life when he is at the bottom. Interesting. Kali's sun conjunct Don's moon. There's a powerful connection and the blending of goals. I know they're both in the music industry, so this could literally be potentially due to like the music careers, but also if we're seeing, Kali taking care of family affairs, obviously we'll hopefully see more, but potentially there is maybe a sort of more domestic goals and family goals. Don plays a supportive role and initial attraction is felt by Don. Kali tends to lead the relationship, which, I mean, with what we have seen how like Kali coming into Don's life when he is at the bottom, there is a certain power that comes with that, I imagine. Kali's sun conjunct Don's Venus. There is mutual respect and a mutual attraction. They share common interests. I mean, the whole, careers are kind of like a whole common interest, aren't they? They're a financially lucky couple, and Kali encourages Don's creativity. Kali feels more beautiful around Don, and Don finds Kali charming and intriguing. We're seeing again. Kali's sun opposite Don's Uranus. Separation occurs, and it's an exciting relationship, which I feel like this will be due to potentially like them touring and everything, like especially if both of them are like traveling musicians. Kali feels burden. I imagine this would be due to, we did see obviously right at the beginning how she takes care of most of the family affairs. So I wonder if it is a situation where like, even though they are both working, maybe Kali is still expected to pick up the slack with maybe more domestic matters and stuff like that. The relationship starts quickly and Kali finds Don to be insensitive. Don will likely feel trapped by Kali over time. Interesting, we're seeing this again on Don's end, that he feels trapped over time. Kali's sun opposite Don's Neptune. There's misunderstandings and Kali has a lack of trust, delusions and deception, and Don promises more than fulfills. They both need to be clear with each other, and Kali believes Don is her soulmate. So it seems like from what we're seeing so far, like particularly with, Kali seemingly having a bit more of like a high power, like leading the relationship, kind of clinging onto this relationship a bit more, taking charge with it, taking the horn by the balls and going with it, if that's the saying. So that whole thing with Kali, but also we're seeing how Don feels trapped over time. I wonder if maybe she's really clinging on to him in that way, really trying to make the relationship work. Kali's sun at Trine Don's Pluto. It's transformative and a productive relationship. They are fascinated with each other, which we've been seeing a few times on Don's end for Kali. They both want to get to know each other deeply, and Don inspires Kali to dramatically transform herself. Okay, so now it's time for moon. We have Kali's moon in Scorpio and Don's moon in Leo. These are both fixed signs. They have opposite temperaments, and Don feels Kali's analyzing habits are unnecessary. I'm not really obsessed with this and like Don promising more than fulfilling. And I imagine there is a reason why Kali may feel like she's putting more effort into this relationship. I wonder if like she's suspicious of him and she's kind of like really clinging onto the relationship. I obviously want to see more before jumping into conclusions, but like I feel like we're building into a certain type of dynamic here, which I'm hoping won't be. I hope I'll be proven wrong. Don doesn't understand Kali's tendency to distrust, and they are both strong-willed, and they are both themselves here. Don's moon overlaid in Kali's 9th house. Don idolizes Kali, and Don feels Kali is out of his league, which I think we did see, like, the initial attraction is felt by Don. And, we have been seeing he's quite intrigued by her. Don brings out the best in Kali, and there's possible for long distance, which I've seen with separation occurring, but also with bringing out the best in Kali also goes back to how Kali feels, transformed here, or is inspired to dramatically transform herself. That could be related. Kali may feel emotionally attached to Don, and Kali may become dependent on Don. They share similar attitudes on politics and religion, and there's mutual respect, admiration, and affection. Kali's moon opposite Don's Mars. It's an emotional roller coaster. I mean, not surprising that it could be an emotional roller coaster, because we did see that misunderstandings happen due to emotions, but there is that emotional dependence, which it has been repeated on Kali's end. So it seems to be leaning towards that way. Kali finds Don to be aggressive, and Don finds Kali to be demanding. They both get defensive, and they both react instinctually to each other. Codependency is likely to occur, and Kali wants commitment with Don. I'm not liking this. It feels like a very stereotypical thing with Kali and Don, of like that whole trope with, the woman wanting commitment and everything, and doing, like, really putting in 100%, because it seems like Kali's quite dedicated to him, seems to be putting a bit more effort when it comes to potentially more like domestic family matters. And it seems like Don, he's intrigued by her, but it doesn't seem like he's putting in the same effort as her, and it feels like Kali's trying to force this. And because Don's not giving it, she's paranoid. Like, it seems like that sort of really bad trope, which I'm not liking, but it seems to be the case. Kali's moon trine Don's Saturn. Building on past traditions is important, and it's a stable relationship. I mean, it's stable in terms of longevity. It seems like I think they've been together for a few years. I don't think they're just like partners as far as I know, sort of thing, rather than like married. So they've been together for quite a while. So in that sort of way, it is stable, and it doesn't look like either of them, as far as the reading so far, either of them are going to leave. Like, Don feels trapped, which is a bit... There's a potential for accumulating wealth, and Kali sees Don as mature. Don is accountable with Kali, so I imagine maybe this is why Don is not really happy with Kali being more like, analytical and everything, because potentially, like, he does feel like, I am giving you everything, I'm being accountable on everything, why are you still this way? Don's desire for commitment is appealing to Kali. I hope, potentially, he actually does fulfill sort of Kali's, desires and everything in this way, because otherwise, Don finds it difficult to be emotionally caring. So I assume the emotional dependence we're seeing is a bit more on Kali's end, and the sort of difficulties that come with it is Don's difficulty to be emotionally caring. They can achieve mutual long-term goals together, and Don prioritizes domestic life. Okay, I'm liking this, like, more positive swing we're taking. But then again, like, even though he prioritizes domestic life, like, that doesn't necessarily mean less work for Kali. Don's moon is square Kali's Jupiter. There's a tendency to be extreme and excessive, and they're too optimistic as a couple. I mean, the only way I'm seeing this is potentially with Kali really clinging onto this relationship. Like, I feel like if I were Kali's friend, I would just, rethink this. Because, like, it seems like she's putting in a lot more effort. She's viewing this relationship a bit more optimistically than she needs to be. But then again, we did just see a couple smidges of hope with, like, Don potentially reciprocating just as much as Kali. Hopefully that will continue. Poor judgment can lead to trouble, and they both feel free with their emotions. It's a relationship about determining boundaries, and they both will learn better judgment. They meet in an optimistic way, and there's a failing to keep promises. That seems to be on Don's, and we just saw with him. Don may become possessive of Kali. Don's moon opposite Kali's Uranus. Don feels insecure with Kali's unpredictable behavior. Interesting. The only thing I can really see here is potential with like a career, and like obviously we saw separation occurring, so obviously touring would occur. And as far as I know, Kali does seem to have like the bigger like success at the moment, so that potentially is there. Kali subconsciously sees Don as a parent. Is that why she feels like more attached to him? This worries me a bit. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not really this relationship is kind of worrying me. I really hope we're gonna get some more positivity, but like it's unstable marriage or long term. Yeah, there's an unusual meeting. I'm curious because we saw optimistic way, but also an unusual meeting. I mean, like if they met in like a unique way, I don't know if they're on tour, that's not a very typical place to meet someone, you could say. So I don't know, maybe in that sort of way. Kali is not interested in emotional closeness like Don. This is interesting. So I guess like they both seem to have their emotional dependence, but maybe it comes out in different ways. Like it sort of goes in and out of when they're desiring this emotional dependence. And in that way, because they're not in sync, that creates misunderstandings emotionally. I'm curious to see where this will go. The relationship can begin and end suddenly. Don's moon at Trine Kali's Pluto. There's an intense meeting, and they both will need to let go of fake personas. I'm curious of the meeting because we're seeing a few things like it's like intense, it's unusual, but it's really optimistic and it's sudden, like very not magical, but like it seems like very unique. They both bring truth and change in social and political areas together, and there is a strong bond. They're involved in organizations together and can solve problems in their community, which this could be like more humanitarian sort of charitable things, but also could be in like the same record label if they are in the same sort of record label. They can go through difficulties together, and they both can transform each other. Now for the intermission, this video is brought to you by me, my Etsy store, Adeline the Astrologer. If you ever watch this and think, hey, I would like her to read my Synastry chart, well, I will. I do personalized Synastry chart readings on my Etsy store. I do both basic and detailed ones. The basic ones are a bit more simple to understand and really good for those just beginning out in astrology, getting their heads around it, or just as a fun gift idea. The detailed readings are very similar to what I do here, so it's a lot of it just with my insights and interpretation on the chart. So if you're interested in that and everything else, astrology and tarot, readings and gifts, definitely check out my Etsy store for that. I'm always releasing new other things there as well. And you can even just favorite the store just to support me for free. Thank you for listening, and let's get back to the reading. So now it's time for Mercury. We have both their Mercuries in Cancer, so they prioritize their feelings and emotions. They are both invested in this relationship. That I see. Like, I feel like both of them are very committed. In terms of like the effort they're putting in, like it just seems like Don is kind of just like staying put because he feels like he's obligated to, and not necessarily putting in the same amount of effort as Kali. They understand the other's intuitive approach to life, and they are both sensitive and take things personally. They nurture each other, which I'm glad we're seeing these bits of positivity, which I'm sure would be like gluing factors for them here. Don's Mercury overlaid in Kali's 8th house. Don can hurt Kali with words. The only thing we've really seen in terms of this is Don promising more than fulfilling. So I imagine those sort of like, his words of empty promises may hurt Kali. Kali takes conversation seriously, and Don is prone to dominating conversation. Conversations tends to get deep quickly, which we did see how like there seems to be an emotional, like both of them seem emotional. It just seems like there's a bit of like a disconnect there in some way, which leads to misunderstanding. So in that way, emotions can definitely get emotional and like deep quickly. I think we did also see like arguments can get very heated very quickly. So in that way, deep cut arguments potentially. There's clear and precise conversation. The Mercuries are conjunct together, so they think like each other and they share interests. They enjoy each other's company, and they are good friends, and they value each other. They just get each other, and they approach problems the same way, which we did see how they're able to go through difficulties together. So I imagine that would come from a place of like approaching problems in a similar way. They see eye to eye most of the time, and misunderstandings are unlikely, which I feel like could be things outside of emotions and everything. I feel like the more emotional domestic things are sort of a bit tricky here. Everywhere else seems to be generally fine. There's a possibility for heated debates, and they both feel they found their intellectual match. Kali's Mercury trine Don's Jupiter. Don is enthusiastic about Kali's thoughts and ideas, and they have positive and inspiring conversations. There's a strong friendship. I wonder if they met as friends. Like, we've seen a whole lot when it comes to the meeting, so kind of, I don't want to say could be anything. It seems to be like a sort of, from what I'm seeing, very like unexpected, positive, like I don't want to use the word like magical moment, but like a sort of like a movie type moment, I guess is the better way to put it. Don introduces Kali to new ways of thinking, and Don can be too lenient with Kali. It's an optimistic meeting, and Kali helps Don with self-expression. It seems like they are both quite, like, intellectually, they seem to be able to, like, you know, match each other. Both found the intellectual match. But also with, like, Kali helping Don with self-expression, it makes me think potentially on, like, a creative way. They are able to bounce ideas off of each other. Business together is advantageous, and they enjoy traveling together. I'm not sure, because I know like they're together, but have they ever made any sort of like music together? Because obviously that would do well, and enjoying traveling together makes me think it would be good, you know, for them to tour together. They come from different cultures. I'm not sure where either of them are from. Like, Don Toliver's African American, I believe. I'm not sure with Kali though, what her sort of background is. I believe they are both American, so that is there. Don's Mercury sextile Kali's Venus. They encourage each other to express themselves, and there's easy communication. They're attuned emotionally. I'm glad we're seeing a bit more positivity when it comes to their emotions. Like, hopefully emotional misunderstandings are just like a little mishap. But we did see how like Kali doesn't value the emotional connection as much as Don. Potentially, like, maybe she doesn't have as much sort of, I guess, like a lot in her cup to give, if that makes sense. Like, I know I'm always using this analogy, but like potentially Kali just does not have the emotional energy to maybe be constantly on, you know, able to fulfill whatever Don's emotional needs. You know, in that sort of way, maybe she's not as desiring the same emotional connection as him. They enjoy the same movies and music, and they share mutual friends, so they could have met through mutual friends. They enjoy socializing together. Don's Mercury trine Kali's Jupiter. This is a repeated aspect, just inverted, so everything from before is further emphasized, but also Kali is enthusiastic about Don's thoughts and ideas. Kali introduces Don to new ways of thinking, and Kali can be too lenient with Don. I feel like this would be in terms of like the promises thing and like potentially the domestic stuff. Don helps Kali with self-expression. Don's Mercury trine Kali's Saturn. They work well together, and they think in similar strategic ways, which I feel like lends back to, you know, the idea that they are able to problem solve, go through difficulties together. Don appreciates Kali's mature thinking and sense of purpose, which I think we did see Kali sees Don as quite mature, which is nice that they both see each other in that way. Kali helps Don bring structure to his life, and Don feels he can learn a lot from Kali. They have effective communication, and they solve problems together carefully and logically. They have serious conversations, and it's a long-term karmic relationship. Yeah, like, I feel like there are elements of it potentially leaning towards being karmic. Obviously, you know, whatever their journey is, their journey is. It's a relationship of spiritual evolution, and they're a team in business. So now it's time for Venus. We have Kali's Venus in Virgo and Don's Venus in Cancer. It's a caring and nurturing relationship. We've seen that they nurture each other already, and it's a low-key relationship, which I feel like makes sense as, to me anyway, someone who kind of lives under the rock with these two. You know, I feel like there's a lot of celebrity couples, even if you don't really know them as like individuals, as a couple, they are quite famous and everything. I haven't heard of like these sort of, I've only heard of Kali Uchis, but besides that, I haven't really heard of her and like Don together or anything like that. So I imagine it is quite low-key. They create a safe environment together. Again, with the domestic thing, like, I know we did see like Don prioritizes domestic life. I'm just worried it's one of those situations where, like, you know, he wants a nice domestic life but not necessarily putting in effort, because we did see how Kali takes care of those sort of like family domestic matters. Kali values Don's sincerity, and Kali needs to understand Don's sensitivity to criticism. Don appreciates Kali's reliability, which I feel like this would be in terms of commitment, because I think we've seen a couple times already like a bit of an indicator Kali may not be the most present at all times, but it seems like she, has that desire to, and seems to fulfill it and be present when she is not like touring or anything and keeping tabs on Don. Don's Venus overlaid in Kali's ninth house. They have shared interests and they may share the same social circles. I feel like these two we've seen like repeated a lot here. They get along well together and Kali is accepting of Don. Don has a friendly approach to Kali and Don teaches Kali how to have fun. Kali sees Don as someone she has a future with, not really surprisingly, so we did see how she views him as a soulmate. Kali's Venus sextile Don's Jupiter. It's materially successful and Don finds Kali interesting, going back to how he finds her intriguing and everything. There's an ability to get over issues, which we're seeing again. They see the good in each other. Like, there's a lot of I know there's a couple things I am worried about. But, on the personal front, if it works for them, it works for them. There are a couple of things. But overall, we are seeing quite a lot of good things here. It's a relationship of growth and they trust each other. They thrive in each other's company and they're a socially popular couple. With us seeing like low-key relationship and the bunch of like they share mutual friends and everything, I feel like they would be socially popular like amongst like, their friends and everything. Like they potentially have like friends as a couple themselves. I'm imagining it's not so much a situation where like they're a couple, they have the separate friendship groups. I imagine they share their friendship groups, Kali's Venus opposite Don's Saturn. Kali feels she's below Don and it's karmic. Yeah, there is a weird, to me, it worries me, like, if, she views him as a parent and she feels below Don, like, not to make this about, like, feminism or anything, I just wonder, and we did see it's important to build on past relationships. I wonder, and I'm a bit worried, like, if Kali is falling into this, like, needing to, like, do womanly duties, because we did see she takes care of those family matters and everything, and Don seems to value that domestic life and everything as well. It just worries me a bit. There is that sort of an element of like, gender roles here as well. And because of that, is that why she feels inferior, but like below Don? Because in every other way, as far as I know, like Kali seems to be quite, more successful than Don. Don fears Kali's withdrawal and toxic cycles easily occur. Yeah, it seems like it's that weird thing, like, again, like, I'm not saying it's fully that trope, because I feel like overall this is good, but there seems to be that element to this trope in this relationship where Kali, is very dedicated to Don, wanting to put effort and kind of clinging into him and making it work. There is a bit of paranoia within her. And I feel like with that sort of, I guess, like, mentality, even if it's subconscious or unconsciously, I feel like that allows her to create these sort of toxic cycles in the relationship, if that makes sense. Don can become critical and demanding of Kali, and it is long term. Kali sees Don as controlling and unsympathetic. Don sees Kali as vain and childish, and it's a difficult meeting, which is interesting. It could be a sort of thing like maybe the lead up to it was difficult because, in a sort of way, like in a movie, like, oh my gosh, this terrible thing is happening, but suddenly, ta-da, like a man-woman comes along. They may be critical of each other due to jealousy, which I'm sure would happen at some point with these two. Like, even, they're probably competing with each other a bit, musically wise. Don's Venus opposite Kali's Uranus. It's a spontaneous and sudden relationship. We did see that the relationship starts and ends suddenly, so that's there. They are separated at times, again, I imagine with like touring and their careers. Unexpected events bring them together. See, that's what I'm saying. It feels like with everything combined together, to me, it just feels like a very stereotypical movie sort of thing. Like whatever happens, like, because we did see difficult meeting. It's optimistic. It's like mystical and like intense and everything. It just makes me feel like it is a bit of like a movie type meeting. They feel they cannot rely on each other. I mean, in terms of, emotions, I feel like Kali does not seem to be 100% reliable in that way. And I feel like Kali cannot rely on Don's, I guess, to put as much effort into the relationship as she is. Kali may resent Don's desire for commitment. I wonder if maybe it's like domestic commitment, maybe? It's confusing me a bit with like Kali. Like, I wonder though if maybe there are some sort of internal issues for her in this relationship, because we did see how she views Don as like a parent figure, and this is like a relationship we're talking about. So I don't know. I wonder if maybe there's some sort of internal issues and like conflict within her. You could also see this as maybe Don is desiring like the sort of like domestic sort of like, because we did see he prioritizes domestic life. So I wonder if maybe Don's desire for commitment is wanting Kali to be a bit more domesticated, so to speak, but she wants to have this career and everything. It's an emotional roller coaster for Don. Yeah, I wonder like if maybe Kali, because we did see she's emotionally dependent on Don, but I wonder if maybe like she's not as consistent as Don with certain things, because we did see she's, doesn't value the same emotional commitment as Don, so that might be difficult for him. Don's Venus opposite Kali's Neptune. Don may prefer to idolize Kali. There seems to be an element of that where he's a lot more intrigued of her. They both find it difficult to stay, and yeah, like we've seen this on Don's end, haven't we? And like, I imagine for Kali, it seems like there is an element of her putting a bit more effort into like tying down Don, so to speak, which is why he potentially feels trapped. Like, they're both of them, yeah. That weird toxic cycle. Don is so caught up in love he doesn't know Kali. That's interesting. Kali doesn't like Don's idealization, and Kali needs to be careful of promising too much. So both of them have that issue. Great. Kali has a hard time being realistic with Don. I wonder if maybe there is that sort of issue. Maybe Kali does want sort of like commitment and everything, and like similar things to what Don wants, but potentially there is an issue with like, Kali balancing like the reality of her career with those sort of goals. Kali communicates with Don vaguely, and neither can define what attracts them to the other. Lies occur to protect from pain. It's not great, is it? Like, there are certain elements here where it's like, that's a bit off. Don's Venus trine Kali's Pluto. It's emotionally fulfilling. I mean, I'm sure in certain ways, because they are both very emotional, I'm sure that gets done at some point. It's not likely to grow stale, and they both enjoy growing from this relationship. They want to have children together, not surprisingly so, and Don sees Kali as a soulmate. That's nice, it's reciprocated. Don considers Kali irresistible. So now it's time for Mars. We have Kali's Mars in Gemini and Don's Mars in Taurus. Don finds Kali unsettling in certain ways, I'm sure. Like, emotionally so, I feel like he would have a lot of... we've seen, he doesn't seem to be doing the best here emotionally. He seems to be struggling a bit with her. Kali nitpicks Don, and Kali finds Don too stubborn. Okay. Don's Mars overlaid in Kali's 6th house. Don energizes Kali, and they exercise together. They're relaxed and calm around the other, and Don is flustered around Kali. Kali can see through Don. Kali's Mars squared Don's Saturn. Kali tries to impress Don. There does seem to be an element of that with again, Kali seems to be putting in a lot of effort here. Don's standards are in conflict with Kali's efforts. I don't like that, because it seems like, again, I feel like there is the weird toxic cycle of it seems like Kali's putting in all of this effort. It's not really being reciprocated or appreciated by Don. She's not happy, and it seems to be happening again and again. Don may try to control Kali as he thinks she is immature. Interesting. I assume immature, emotionally speaking, more than anything else, because we did see how both of them view each other as, being more mature. So it could just be in that one certain area where he finds her as immature. So that was the final aspect, bringing us to the end of the reading. If you are still watching, please share your thoughts below. I would be very curious to see how you guys interpret this one, particularly if you interpret it any differently to me. I worry I may have been a bit too hard on some things, because overall, I feel like it is quite a, positive relationship, but there are those certain things that really I may have been too personally icked by, And if you have made it this far, please consider subscribing for more. I post these readings twice a week. And besides that, give this video a like, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! And a shout out to my astrology enthusiasts, Monkey Girl and Sky Games Vlog Hawker. Thank you for supporting the channel.
If you would also like a shout out and get early access to new videos, click the join button below to join the memberships. There are 2 tiers, the observers and enthusiasts. So thank you again, Monkey Girl and Sky Games Vlog Hawker, for supporting the channel.